because they're calling you Bear, is it all right if I do as well?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
I don't mind. What you
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it. I've just got to get used to it. That's all.
That's what they were calling you.
Yeah, I'm just got to get used to it. I'm okay with it because bear's a nice, powerful totem animal to have.
It's a good creature to be.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. No, I'm okay with bear.
Why do you think that those lads are able to have an experience in a wood environment that would be, what would be different if they were in a room somewhere with you? Why couldn't you do what you do in a room? Because
the energy in the room is dead, basically. They're not connected to the forest, they're not connected to the animals. You know, we've got an innate relationship with nature, and it's about that connection. You know, you can do this in a park, you know, in the local woods, and that connection will still be there. You're not going to get that in a room. It's just four walls, isn't it? It's been put there, it's square, it doesn't flow, the energy doesn't flow with it. When you look at nature, everything looks to be disjointed, but it actually works in harmony. You go into a town or something, okay, it's nice to have a town and all that, but there's straight roads, straight buildings, corners, edges, swimming pools are square, oblong, you know. It's all edges and kind of fights against us, or we fight against that. You know, you go into a hot tub or something where it's nice and round and you relax because there's this kind of flow, the energy flows. So in nature, it flows. We have that innate relationship with it. And it's something that you don't forget. You know, my belief is it's passed down to us throughout the generations. So when you take someone into the woods, the key is to get them to remember what that's like, what that's about, and to allow them to be creative and to explore and enjoy just being in that space. And they'll get so much more from it. Yeah. I mean, you saw yourself doing.
I was really, you know, taken aback by how what seemed to be quite an innocent game turned into something quite fundamental quite quickly for those, and for me, and for the lads who were doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it can just be as simple as just keeping it as a simple game, you know, particularly when you're playing with younger children, just keep it as a simple game. Because they already kind of know, they're already connected, and if they haven't been too contaminated by the adults, and no wrong in that, you know, it's just the way things are, they'll just go off and be creative, you know. And it's in all our children. I mean, I remember, you know, at work one day, a guy came into work and he was really upset because it was Christmas. He bought his son a brand spanking new Tonka toy. He played with it for 20 minutes, and the rest of Christmas and New Year he played with the box. Well, of course, the box is a castle, a racing car, an aeroplane, a submarine, whatever the boy wanted it to be. Tonka toy? It's always going to be a Tonka toy. Plain and simple. So when they come into nature, it's the exploration. Go, oh, let's go in here, let's make a den here. Let's play cowboys and Indians, let's do this. And they get really, really creative. So what I'm trying to do is get the adults to do the same. But sometimes you have to overcome hurdles. They need to kind of go through a letting go process, a trust process. You know, who's this guy? Can I trust him? Do I really want to go here? And then when you get them into that place, and then you ask them to become an animal and role play an animal, they just completely let go and they enjoy it. They totally enjoy it. And the day goes by, and where did time go? You know? I don't feel you can get that inside a building, to be honest.
Yeah, so the kids that you work with, you're kind of opening up some quite fundamental, you're throwing light on some quite fundamental issues that those kids have got, some deep-seated problems. You're in a position of a lot of responsibility in a way, aren't you?
Yeah, completely, yeah.
And yet, you also, it seems to me, let them be as well. You don't sort of direct them.
I try not to, because I don't really want to prime people, and that's the key thing. You know, it's about them, and it's allowing them to explore themselves and who they are. So sometimes that trust issue might take a long time for someone to get to, and others they'll get it really quick. And for me, I find when I try and force that or try and drive that, it goes for a bag of nails. It really does. So this is a kind of shared journey that we do together. So it's also about me learning. So what are they teaching me about myself as well? And in exchange, let's explore your journey, you know, and I'm part of their process. You know, I'm not part of their answer. I'm just part of the process for them to find their own answer within the game or within just being in nature, you know. And we all want to play, you know. I know some grown men who just want to be little boys again and just go and play, you know. I often get told I'm a big kid. Yeah, great, fantastic, thank you for that. I love being a kid, it's good fun, you know, don't take life too seriously.
But your personal journey to this
Yeah.
is quite interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, how did you? I mean, you started off in quite what a lot of people see as, you know, quite a destructive job. That's a mean thing to say. I don't mean destructive. I mean, you started off in the army, and
Yeah.
that is.
Well, I suppose in reality I started off in Belfast, which was quite destructive, to use that phrase, and then the army, yeah. Well, okay, I never saw it that way, because I was taught, and this is the thing, a lot, it's these preconceptions that people have about what your job's about. One of the common questions I used to get asked is, how can you be a carer and have been a soldier? The two don't tie up until you have this extra piece of information. I was always taught, and I also believe, that I'm a defender of the weak, whoever they may be, and it doesn't matter what side of the fence you come from, my job is to protect the weakest. And I have the ability to be aggressive, and that will only come into play as and when it is the last resort. You know, so before then I would do everything in my power to try and create other situations to happen. That may not be indicative of every soldier, but I believe, certainly from my time period, it was, because that's what we were taught. You're there to look after the weak and protect them, because that's your job. So for me, to transfer from the military into a carer to doing what I'm doing now was quite an easy process to do. It wasn't difficult at all, you know.
So when you, let's let these guys come
Sure.
past. Mm. I'm going to ask you in a minute when they've cleared for the sound. I'm going to ask you about whether what in your view it will mean if we bring up an entire generation, my kids' generation, 3 and 5 year olds, who are fundamentally deeply disconnected from the natural world. Sorry.
We've got them already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Do you want to join? Come and join us, it's fun. In my experience, it's the women that make that connection first. Very rarely the men make that connection.
That's one of the things that I'm really bad at. My wife's always like, I won't stop and ask directions, and I won't make the connection, whereas she'll reach out and make a connection first.
We see that as a failure, because that's part of the hunt. In our ancestral times, when we went out on a hunt, okay, if you don't come back with anything, then as far as she's concerned, you're not going to feed the kids, so you're no good. That young buck over there, he's coming back with a kill every day, so you need to sort your act out, because he's looking good. You know, it's about survival. You know, I've had kids where the geeks, if you like, got fire by friction, whereas the lads didn't. And the social worker the next day phoned us up and said, on the minibus on the way back home, the group dynamics flipped on their head. The girls were interested in the geeks because they got fire. The lads now wanted to know the geeks because they wanted to get fired to impress the girls. So you're tapping into real kind of primeval stuff there. So, and that's we forget that. We forget about that in the modern world, you know. But we've still got that in us. We're still kind of fluffing our feathers up and dancing and all that kind of stuff, you know. And people just kind of forget about that, and they try and frame it within political correctness or whatever you want to call it. It's not really kind of that important, but it's kind of moving away from what's really taking place. You know, what's wrong with being who you are? What's wrong with being the way you are? There's nothing wrong with it at all. But somehow we make it wrong, you know. So, but your question was about.
I want to know whether. I mean, there are increasing incidences of certain things in the UK. There are increasing instances of ADHD, obesity, behavioural disorders, depression amongst kids. And we're ranked as having the least happy kids in the Western world.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we are denying our kids the outdoors. All the evidence shows that. They're out less and less and less and less and less. I mean, what you're doing is a dying art, which is taking kids into the woods and teaching them the importance of it.
Yeah.
What are the... I don't know, it's a big question, but what is the downside of doing that? Why don't we just live an indoor life? Why don't we just go for it? I mean, I guess it's similar. I suppose I'm asking you a similar question as to why you don't do your therapy in a room, except I'm asking...
I won't do my therapy in a room. I won't. I refuse, because I remember when I was training, I was asked to kind of take part in... Okay, this is the way it was. When I went into a room to do counselling as a trainee counsellor, I had to have a qualified counsellor with me. But when I went out to do my nature awareness stuff, I could take 20 people in the woods on my own. Go figure. I'm happy with that. But why was that allowed? And yet, if I was in a room, I had to have a counsellor with me. I got 20 people with addictions in the woods on my own. I was never worried that anything would happen, because I trust that whatever unfolds is unfolding for the right reasons, and it always did. You know, and don't misunderstand me, there's no wrong in that. I'm not trying to make it that wrong. I'm just trying to draw attention to the fact that there is more to be had by including nature as part of, if we take rehab as an example, by including nature as part of that process. Because after we did the stuff in the woods, they go back and they process that with their counsellor, and they used to get some really good results as a result of them being in nature, because they discovered something about themselves. So that's an added toolbox in the tool in the toolbox for them. But for me to do it in a room, I just felt that wasn't natural. It wasn't comfortable. I couldn't be. I just couldn't. I couldn't connect with the person on that level. But out here, I can connect with them. Because I see it as a shared journey, whereas in a room it feels to me like there's me and there's them. And let's talk about your problems. Well, we've all got problems, you know, how do we deal with them? But out here, there doesn't seem to be that problem. It just seems to be, okay, let's go on this journey together and see how we can explore it and see what comes up. And we deal with the here and now. We look at what's happening in the moment. So when somebody says to me, for example, have you read their case notes? Bad boy, no. Because I'm not really interested in what somebody else has to say about you, for example. Because how do I know they've got your assessment correct? I don't.
So you tend not to, you just tend to deal with people as they present there and then? Yeah,
unless it involves the law, then, you know, where I'm told you have to, because there's a legal issue here, then I don't. Reason for that is there was actually a situation in a care home that I worked in years ago, medium secure. We were restraining a client all the time, and he went back, eventually he went back to his original home up in Hull, having been to several on the way. And when he got back, the first thing the carers said, because they remembered him from way back, oh, does he still like doing this? Does he still play with his ball? And these were all the things that he was allowed to do that we were restraining him for. Effectively, we were false imprisoning that guy. One of the lads left. He couldn't handle it. It was too much for him. He came back crying. We were imprisoning that guy. So somewhere along the line, like Chinese whispers, that information either got lost or flipped on its head. From something he was allowed to do to something he couldn't do anymore. And he was being punished for it. To him, he just wanted to play ball or eat an apple. Who determines that? You know, it's very difficult, isn't it? And there's so many things in the mix, but when you're in nature, I don't feel you have that problem, because you're just dealing with the here and the now. Whatever presents itself, we work with that. And you're part of somebody else's process. You're helping them to help themselves get back on track. You're not telling them how to get back on track. You're kind of offering some guidance and other options available to them, which can include going, you know, back to the system or whatever. You know. So it works in synergy with the system rather than separate from it.
One of the guys today wasn't able to find the tree and the kind of find the tree exercise, and in a kind of very goal-oriented culture, that might be seen as sort of, you know, you putting him in a position where he's sort of somehow failed.
Yeah.
You don't see it that way, do you? You see it as like the process being the important thing.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation, and you know, and this has been challenged before in the past, that you know, you're setting somebody up to fail. No, you're not, because if you're able to get someone to kind of connect with something that they do that affects their life, and they can make that connection, then metaphorically they've found their tree. So it's always going to be a win-win situation. You know, there's times I've gone out, we haven't even begun the game, and something will trigger somebody, and it'll end up being a group process. And everybody will get something from it. So there's always something to be got from it, and you can take that further on to the next session or whatever, you know. And you can give them something to think about. So I won't tell people, you know, this is what's happening to you. I just kind of field it and say, you know, what do you feel is going on? You know, are you happy to stay with that? You know, and explore that later on down the road.
And this is an open question. What in your life has nature meant to you?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, good question. It's meant an awful lot. Okay, well, I'm from Belfast. I'm from the city, so I kind of grew up early days in the city. So experiencing nature for me was quite a powerful experience. And I've been fortunate enough to be in places in the world that most people kind of just see on TV and dream about. So it's had a very powerful effect on me, and certainly in terms of, you know, being in the Gulf or what have you, as a bird watcher, that has a really powerful connection for you. It keeps you connected with, you know, that there's other things in life still going on. You know, being in the middle of the desert, people think it's dead, but actually a dragonfly just flies past in pursuit of a butterfly maybe, you know, but there was a butterfly in front, you know, and I'm hearing birds in the background, and it just kind of doesn't allow me to get too focused on the nuts and bolts of what you're doing, really. And there's examples of that throughout history, you know, of service people having this kind of relationship with nature, particularly birds. I mean, I've seen guys bring dogs back from conflict zones. They become attached to dogs and they bring them back, you know. A mongoose kind of saved a guy's life by taking a snake out. He completely adopted this mongoose and won't be tied anybody to try to take it off him, you know. So we all have this relationship with nature, and I think when you're in an extreme situation, it becomes really profound, you know.
Yeah, you still get that though, don't you? You still get that sense of, I mean, you're not in an extreme situation now, and yet it seems this is your natural environment somehow. It feels right meeting.
Oh God, I love it.
It didn't feel right meeting you in my front room.
No, I guess not. No, but that was just as important, you know, because I, you know, for me, I wanted that eye-to-eye contact. I'm not happy doing it over email. I'm not happy doing it over the phone. That's why I kind of pushed for let's have a meeting, because then I get a feel for who you are. Like when I visit a website, if there's no picture, I move on. I want to see who it is. I go to About Us first. Right, who am I looking at? Here, I love it. You know, when you see the guys move, I don't know if you notice that. It's like when they get close to their tree or they're kind of getting something, it's like, yeah, it's great. It's really powerful. It's really exciting. It fills you up. And you just go away feeling that you've done something really worthwhile. And the added bonus is you get paid for it. I can put food on my plate now, but the ultimate prize is actually seeing them make that connection and seeing them really connect on an emotional level with what's going on, and that just reinforces my belief system that, hey, this is really powerful stuff. You know, I can't get enough of it. So.
And what do you make of our project and me?
Okay. I actually think, from what you've been telling me so far, I think it's pretty cool what you're doing. Certainly after our meeting, had I not made that connection with you, I wouldn't have continued. I probably would have ended it, you know, very politely, of course, but you know. But and I saw your little video clip on the website, And I love the web, you know, even though I'm a big nature guy, I love the internet. It's a really powerful tool, both positive and negative. And seeing that little video clip gave me an insight to who you were, because I saw your kids, I saw your family, your mum. Okay, I get a feel for who you are and what you're about, and I like that. So that kind of drove me on a little bit further. Had I not seen that, I probably would have still been a little bit edgy. And I think what's really important about what you're doing is that you're bringing to the attention of other people who may not be in the know yet of the importance of nature, or they do know, but you know, they might need reminding. But I think more importantly for me, it's I think the powers that be need to know and understand. You know, I'd love to get David Cameron in the woods. Bring it on. Let's go. Let's go find your tree, Prime Minister.
the cabinet in the woods.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Bring them all out. Yeah. It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. But can you imagine if I'm not saying they're not connected with it, because I don't know them, I don't know who they are. But if they were out here and they connected with this, then I believe that they would see something or make that connection that, hang on a minute, this is really what our kids need. You know, playing conkers with goggles and gloves and maybe a hard hat. How does that work? Replacing trees with plastic trees and rubber mats underneath. How does that work? No, that's not being, you know, that's not teaching our kids anything. I don't think so anyway, you know.
I mean, one of the reasons why I asked what your perception of what we're doing is because I'm going through a really, really difficult stage of it at the moment.
Okay.
Where, which often happens, but it never feels, I'm never able to remind myself that I'm never able to believe that there's going to be a way out of it. You know, and we're sort of, you know, the irony is that through the process of making a film about nature and the importance of like spending time with my kids outdoors, I've actually spent virtually no time with my kids because I've been so running around doing this.
Okay.
And you know, the pressure of trying to come up with a campaign that's going to work and do something and not fritter away this amazing opportunity that we've got to actually put some ideas out there and see if they'll make a difference. The pressure of that is very, I'm finding very, you know, very full on.
Yeah.
And as a result, you know, sort of finding it quite difficult to operate. And so I think I feel like I need to reconnect to what it is. I think I've kind of turned this promoting of nature into this kind of functional thing. Oh, I've got to sell it, I've got to do, I've got to achieve, I've got to get this goal. And I've kind of forgotten that the joy of it.
Yeah.
And that I feel if I'd be so depressed if I was spat out at the end of making this film, actually caring less about nature because it's been such a bloody ball ache doing all of this work on it. I don't know why I'm telling you that. It's just like a moment.
Well, no, that's fine. It makes perfect sense because a couple of things came to my mind. Was one, have you asked your kids? Have you taken them out and so what do you think it is? How do you feel about that? Because they will often have the answer that you're looking for, but actually you've just answered your own question in telling me what you've just told me. So you need to get and meet a tree, don't you?
I need to go and meet a tree.
Yeah. Next week, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
That sounds good.
Okay, no worries. Well, we can do that.
But
I can see it's an interesting situation that you're in because you are doing something that's very functional and trying to get a message out there, but at the same time you're denying yourself the opportunity to experience nature. So maybe wherever you are, include a sit spot in that at the beginning and at the end, and just kind of spend 20 minutes or even 15 minutes just sitting there by the riverbank, whatever, and just being in nature. And then the rest of it becomes easy, I think. It is difficult because I find with myself, I live in two worlds. You know, I live in this world that I love to be in all the time. I'd love to do Grizzly Adams and just go off into the hills, you know, with my bear and live in a log cabin. Beautiful. But then what? Then what? What about the kids that are on the streets, surviving, you know, with what they've got? You know, who takes care of that? You know, and I struggle with that sometimes because I don't have the resources to be able to kind of do something about that. You know, I want to do that, I need to do that, I'd like to do that, and I'd enjoy to do that, but the resources are not there for me. How do I deal with that? Well, I keep going. You know, one of my buddies says he finds it amazing that I just keep going, but there are times when I just want to go, you know, it's not my problem anymore. I'll go off somewhere and live on my pension. Got a nice pension from the army, thank you very much, put my feet up. No, I'll get bored within 6 weeks, probably less, and I'll need to come back. So even though I moan about my lot being in the other world, I also recognise that I need to be in that world in order to try and hopefully make a difference where I can for those that haven't had that experience of being in this world.
So it's finding that balance in a way.
Yeah, it's finding that balance. It'd be so easy to go and stay with like-minded people and totally connect with like-minded people, and when I do it, I love it. But I also feel drawn not to stay there. I need to kind of be on this other edge as well, because there's something else there that needs to happen. Where do them kids go? You know, what do they do in the future? You know, I remember saying to a kid some years ago, I would not want to be a kid today. You know, they always say, oh, my day, we had it really rough. You know, you kids don't know what it's like. No, it's the other way around now.
I wouldn't want to be a kid today.
No,
not at all.
Not at all. And they don't actually believe you, or they didn't believe me when I said it, until this kid heard me the next day saying it to another kid. And he went, do you really mean what you said? I said, yeah, you guys are under so much pressure, it's unbelievable.
Well, all they get told is that they've got to solve global warming, and because we've pushed that problem onto them.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So let's make the kids worry about it. So they worry. They you know, when I was growing up, science was a magic, a kind of magical world of discovery.
Yeah.
Now science for them is like a kind of dark evil that they need to get on top of and deal with. And it's got global warming and nuclear meltdown and all sorts of other hideous dystopias in it. And also, they don't have the time. They're scheduled to within an inch of their lives and mollycoddled and wrapped in cotton wool and not allowed to play out and not allowed to experience.
Play Call of Duty 4 and whatever
play
it is.
Call of Duty 4, which is rubbish.
And yet at the same time, David, I actually do feel at this moment in time where we are actually in very exciting times, because science is discovering things, and science is now being challenged about its own belief systems in terms of, you know, I've shared with you before that they've realised that the heart's receiving more information than the brain from outside of the body. Well, where does that take science? Well, that really opens the floodgates for them. They're like, oh my God, we're now having to recognise that there's things there that years ago we would have said, whoa, that's magic, or, you know, taboo or whatever. So I think it's really exciting times, and in terms of the spiritual side of things, the two need to merge, and the two can merge, and they can work together hand in hand. You know, if I can take you back to when conservation became a buzzword, I remember everybody panicking in the press going, oh, there's going to be no more jobs, people, mass unemployment. What happened to that? It never happened. People are making money out of conservation, and I believe the same is true for this. You know, we've got forest schools springing up, fantastic, good stuff. So people are hopefully making a living out of that, and they're getting the kids back into nature. Because we've forgotten how to do that with our children, so we now need to kind of do it this way. So people can make a living out of it, they're not going to lose out, and it's another tool in their toolbox, and it's getting the adults to recognise that, which is the hard bit, you know. Because at the end of the day, you know, what's in it for them? That's the question they're going to ultimately ask themselves. What's in it for me? Yeah, that all sounds great and nice and fluffy and all the rest of it, but what's in it for me? Well, come out into nature and find out. You know, remember when you were a kid and you went off into the woods and built a shelter, and your mum said, don't come back until it's dark? You know, why can our kids not do that now?
Well, because my wife won't let them. She's scared that they'll get abducted.
Mm.
That's one of the simple answers for me. But anyway, that's a different matter.
Sure.
But mums are supposed to be more protective than dads, aren't they? Well, I say supposed to be. They tend to be. And they're young, my kids. You know, that they've got time. And I'll train my wife out of her obsessions as well.
She could go to the woods with them.
Maybe I need to bring her to the woods. Maybe she needs to find her tree. If I go back and say, she'll say, hey, how was it with Bear in the woods? You know, have you found an insight? Are you going to be calmer and more, you know, less stressed out? And I'll be like, no, what I've discovered is that you need to find your tree.
I mean, did you read about the mother with the 3 children?
No, remind me of that.
In the book.
In the book.
Yeah, that's my cousin in
Yeah,
Lurgan.
okay, I remember.
And she went out with her kids and they did meet a tree, and it just she was absolutely amazed at the response, how the kids responded, and they really connected with it, and they totally enjoyed themselves. And she's got 3 autistic children. You know, that's powerful stuff. You know, it's
Good.
just about connecting, isn't it?
It's all about connecting.
Bottom line.
Should we go back and have some more tea?
Yeah.
That was brilliant, by the way.
Good.
That's
Okay.
lovely,
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you.
Really good.